Hello guys, this is my labor and delivery story. You have to excuse my stretching baby, and if you hear some snoring in the background, it's my dog. It's not me or it's not my baby. It's my dog. But this is my labor and delivery story. I'm so sorry. It my delivery happened 6 weeks ago, but I haven't gotten around to doing it. This is baby number 4 for me, and I've been busy. I've been busy with all the kids and a baby who never wants me to put him down, which he is laying on my lap right now while I'm shooting this video. But I'll get right into it. Like I said, this is baby number 4, and so I start having contractions late that evening on September the 11th. I started having contractions. I really wasn't monitoring them at that point. I was kind of asleep, but I felt them. I got up. They were something that I felt in my sleep. So I got up about 3:30, which is when my husband normally gets up to go to work. And I was like, I'm going to start timing my contractions. And I told him, I said, I've been having contractions all night. And I'm like, I think I'm going to possibly go in once I drop the kids off at school. I think I'm going to go in and get checked. And he was like, well, do you think I should stay home from work? And I said, I really don't know, because I don't know if I am in true labor or not. I don't know if I'm going to have the baby, and I don't want you to take off and then I don't have the baby. So I told him, it's really up to you. Then about an hour later, and I was timing my contractions within an hour, they were about 15 minutes apart, and my husband decided he was not going in that day. And so I said, well, since you're not going to work, I'm going to call the doctor's office and see if they want me to go to labor and delivery and make sure that I'm not in true or active labor. So I called the answering service and left a message with the lady, and she said she was going to call the doctor, on-call doctor, and have him give me a call back. So he calls back, but at that time I was in the bathroom trying to get myself ready. And he spoke with my husband, and he told my husband, well, I want her to go in only if the contractions are the worst pain she's ever had. And I was like, well, they're not really the worst pain I've ever had, but when I was in labor with my second child, I went into the hospital and I was 8 centimeters dilated, and I didn't want to go through that again. I didn't want to chance it, because I'm an hour away from the hospital, and from my house, I'm an hour away, and I didn't want to chance being that far away from the hospital and going into labor. So I just went in. And my husband stayed home with the kids, took them to school, and he said he'll come to the hospital once he gets done with all of that. So I get to the hospital, and they put me in the triage room. I was in the triage room, hooked up to all the monitors, the blood pressure monitor, a baby heart monitor, and the contraction monitor. And of course, as soon as I get there, my contractions, the intensity just slowed down. The contractions didn't feel the way they were feeling when I was at home that night, that morning. And I'm like, okay, well, I might be going home. But the doctor, she came in and she checked my cervix, and my cervix was at 3. I was dilated 3 centimeters. And she said, you know, well, it doesn't seem like you were in active labor, but I'm going to come back and check your progression within the next hour. And I'm going to get some blood work drawn just to make sure that you're not preeclamptic, because you are a little older in age, and I want to make sure that you are not preeclamptic, because your blood pressure is kind of high. And so she took the blood, and my husband finally got there, and she came back in to check my cervix again, and it was at 3 centimeters. And she was like, I'm gonna probably send you home. I'm just waiting on your blood work to get back, and I'll send you home. So me and my husband, we sitting, we talking, and we thinking about what we were gonna eat for breakfast. And I'm like, okay. The doctor comes back in. She comes back in with a group of doctors. So they said that since my blood pressure was elevated, and it's been elevated for the last couple of weeks, and I was at 39 weeks when I went into the hospital, she wanted to keep me. And she was going to give me some Pitocin to help me out with the labor, the getting into active labor. I started to have a little tears in my eyes, and I looked over at my husband, and he gave me that look like, it's gonna be all right. And so, but I really wasn't listening to everything else she said at that point, because my mind was somewhere else. But she kept me, and they put me, the nurse came back in, started an IV. They got some more blood from me, because she said she needed some more blood to admit me. And they wheeled me over to the labor and delivery room. I got over in the labor delivery area, and I got a new nurse, and she came in and she said, oh, okay, we're going to have a new baby. We're going to have a baby probably by tomorrow morning. I'm like, okay. And she was like, she started writing on the board, and she said, what's the baby's name going to be? And I told her, and she wrote, welcome, baby. And then she wrote, his name. And then she I was already on the IV, so she was like, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna start you on the penicillin. I needed penicillin because I tested positive for the strep B or whatever it's called, and they needed to get the antibiotics in me, so they were gonna give me 2 bags, but she started me on my first bag. And my contractions were back on and popping, okay? They were hard contractions. And at this time, my husband had left me. He had left and went to go get something to eat. And, of course, I couldn't eat anymore. I was hooked up to the antibiotics and the IV. And at that time, you can't eat. And she was like, well, I can give you a popsicle. I took the popsicle, but I was still hungry. I had ate a bagel on my way to the hospital, but I was starving anyways. But my husband went and got something to eat. But anyways, back to the labor and delivery story. My contractions were hard. They started back, and my husband, at this time, he was going to get something to eat. He went and got my bag out of the car, and he had came back, and he was sitting on the couch. My contractions were so bad that he came over and sat next to me in the chair. He pulled a chair over and sat next to me in the bed, because I was grabbing on to the rails of the bed because the contractions were hurting so bad. So then the the doctor came in and checked my cervix. I was at 4 centimeters, and my cervix, it felt like I was ready, because I was so, my contractions were so strong, and it felt like the baby was pressing on my bladder or something, because every time I had a contraction, I had to get up and use the bathroom. And this was like every couple minutes. So I was getting up and I was going to the bathroom with all of these. I had to, unhook from all these machines and put, the little stand with your IV, and it had my penicillin in it. I had to push it to the bathroom with me. And I'm like, dang, these contractions is just getting out of there. And at that time, this is my fourth baby, and I'm like, I'm breathing crazy. I'm like, she was like, please don't hold your breath. She was like, do you need to be told how to breathe? And I'm like, yeah. And she was like, I want you to breathe like, I forgot what she said, because I was in so much pain. But I ended up breathing like, but the contractions were just out of control. When I first got in the room, she had asked me, did I want an epidural? But I had told her no. I'm like, no, I don't want an epidural, but I do want some type of pain meds. And so she said that she can give me some morphine. But she wasn't going to give it to me at that time, because the morphine only lasts for 4 hours. She said she'll give it to me when my pain is kind of like unbearable. So my pain was unbearable at this time. And I'm like, I am hurting. So I was like, can I get the morphine? And she was like, well, the doctors have to come back in and check you before I give you the morphine. And I'm sorry, I didn't tell you that they had hooked me up to the Pitocin. This was after my penicillin had completely emptied. So they had hooked me up to the Pitocin. Within an hour after the Pitocin had got into my IV, I was in excruciating pain, And so she was checking with the doctor. She was like, the doctors are kind of tied up right now, but they're going to be in to check you. And once they check you, again, I'll give you the morphine. So I'm waiting on the doctors. I'm like, I'm in so much pain, and I'm on the toilet. I didn't have to do number 2. However, I kept using the bathroom. I had to keep using the bathroom. And my husband was like, I don't want you on this toilet delivering this baby. So he like, just get in the bed. And I'm like, okay. And he, helped me over. He helped me over to the bed, and the nurse came back in, and she was like, well, if you want, I can put a bedpan under you and you can pee that way. And I'm like, okay. And she was like, or you can just pee on the mattress. I'm like, ugh. I was like, ugh, I don't want to pee on the mattress. But anyways, I had to get up. The bedpan thing wasn't working out for me. I don't know how people could pee on a bedpan, but anyways, the doctors finally came in. It wasn't my doctor. It was a doctor, and it was a medical student who came in. She checked me first. She didn't say anything, but she checked me first. And then he checked me. And I'm like, okay, so can I get my morphine? I'm in pain. Can I get my morphine? And he was like, well, I don't really want to give you any morphine. When we checked your cervix, you're dilated to 10. And the morphine will kind of make the baby a little sleepy, and we want the baby alert, and we want the baby to be, active and crying and this and this and that. So I'm like, I'm about to have this baby. He was like, well, we're about to break your back. And at that time, my doctor came in. They were getting suited up and everything. And I'm like, I have to push. And the doctor was like, we're not ready for you to push yet. They were still getting suited up. They were taking the bed apart, and I'm like, I gotta push. She like, no. I'm like, okay, all right. I'm trying not to push. I tried with all my heart not to push, but they finally got ready. They came in, broke my bag, and it's weird because with none of the births, my water never busts. None of my labors. They always have to go in and bust my water. But anyways, they bust my water, bust my bag, and I had to push. And they were like, go ahead and push. The thing is, my contractions, it felt like they eased up to me. I don't know how that even happened, but it seemed like my contractions went away, and I was so focused on all this pressure. But I had started pushing, and the doctor was like, I'm gonna need you to open your legs. And I'm like, I can't move my legs. And so my husband had ended up coming and grabbing one of my legs, and the nurse was grabbing my other leg to try to open up my legs. And she was like, I need you to open your legs because the baby is right here. I see a head full of hair, and I'm just going to need you to open your legs so that you can get this baby out. And my husband grabbed my leg, and he said, man, he was like, you got to be the strongest woman in the world. Now, my husband, he's not an itty bitty guy, and he grabbing my leg, but I'm pulling it back because the pain, it hurts so bad to feel all that pressure down there. And I finally relaxed and opened up my legs because I'm like, he is coming out and it's hurting. But anyways, I pushed and I pushed. It was probably about 5 to 7 minutes of pushing, and I had pushed him out. And they had asked me before, did I want him on, chest to chest? And I said yes. And they put him on my chest, and I was still in pain, but it was the best thing ever. They put him right on my chest, and it was all worth it. All that pain. And I forgot to tell you guys, I did use the ball during labor. I didn't use the round ball. It was kind of like a peanut shaped ball. She told me it might help me. This was before I even got the penicillin. But she said it'll help keep my cervix open by keeping my legs open. But it was the best thing ever. Once I had him and he was laying on my chest. He was just such an itty bitty baby. And I gotta show you my baby even though he is asleep. Let me see. Oh, he making some faces in his sleep. Stretch on out, baby. Stretch on out. But this is my baby Carson. He was born on September the 12th at 3:52 p.m. And he weighed 6 pounds, 10 ounces. And he was 20 and a half inches long. And this is my baby. And this is my story. And I thank you guys for watching it. Oh, he is still stretching out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.